Oh, what's that sound? Oh, it's the doorbell. Oh, Postman Fro has a package for me, Steven. Oh, man, this is what I've been waiting for. Oh, man, I can't wait to tell you about this. It's so cool. It makes me the coolest person in the world.
Steven, can you see this on the podcast that no one else can see on our audio-only podcast?
Oh, it's a picture of you, and it says MLB 24.
That's right. This is the Willy Wonka golden ticket of baseball.
It literally is gold, isn't it?
No, that's orange.
Oh, well, it looks gold on the Zoom call.
No, so my first year, this is the third year of having this Major League all-access photography pass, which, let me just tell you people real quick, this is the golden ticket that gets you into every stadium for every game in 2024.
How did you get this golden ticket?
I know people. You got to know people. You got to know people that are actually capable of getting stuff done. Because if I didn't know these people, Steven, I'd be sitting on my ass watching TV. I wouldn't even be watching the games on TV. Because,
well, you'd probably be local press in Philly, and that's about it.
Yeah, like one game.
You get one game, and that's it. You wouldn't be able to travel around and go to any stadium in America.
So this is the third year of having this golden ticket. And this year it's orange. Last year it was lime green. And the first year it was purple.
I really wish it was actually gold. It looks gold, man.
It's a burnt sienna. No, it's like some sort of orange this year. But this is just this little piece of plastic. This laminated hard plastic is with my picture on it and a barcode is my ticket into every stadium, which
yes,
is just imagine like the biggest baseball fans. This is their dream, is to have this.
I've seen so many EVF clips that you've recorded where literally some of the biggest players in the world are standing 2 feet next to you in the dugout. And it's like, wow, what does it feel like to be there?
Well, Steven, for me, it's just another day at the ballpark. And yeah, it's fine. It's, this is my life, Steven. It's the stuff I get to do.
I would always relate it to like concerts. We always had the best seat in the house, literally 3 feet from.
Talk about your Brandon Flowers story.
Did I ever talk about that on here?
You may have, but it's been a while.
Well, let's just say the Killers are very specific on approving images, and I had to quickly rush and edit. I think I could edit like up to 10 or 15 pictures and post them online immediately, but they had to be approved by the band themselves. So I quickly rushed backstage, went to edit, maybe 15, 20 minutes of editing, and all of a sudden Brandon Flowers comes out of nowhere, puts his hand on my shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, let me check these photos out." And I'm like, "What? The singer of the Killers?" And instead of waiting, he just wanted to see them immediately. And
it's Mr. Brightside.
And I will say, like, unfortunately, I think he didn't approve of some of the better photos because he's very specific on how he doesn't like to look sweaty. Let's just say that, which I think looks badass because you're the singer, you're sweaty, you're putting your heart and soul into it, that kind of thing. But he was a little iffy on those photos and probably approved 5 in the end. But I will say every single time he would look at a photo, he'd be like, "It's not you, it's me." It's not you, it's me. I just don't like how I look in that specific photo, but it's a great photo. And he would always say that every time. It's a great photo,
That's
though.
cool. But it's just
super nice
shows
guy,
you,
man. Yeah.
Everybody has those insecurities. And to me, when it comes to photography, I'm like, it's you, it's your face. This is what you look like. So it's a great photo, fuck off.
Exactly. And this was just like 5 years ago, too. It's not like this is the beginning of the Killers' career. This is when they're at the height of their career. You know what I mean? They're blowing up playing arenas, and he still took the time to come backstage. And he wasn't rushing either. He wasn't annoyed. He was super cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, just being around the players is cool. Being in the stadiums, I like walking around the field. I like being seen out there, right? I heard there's a new rule. Miles, the photographer, when I texted him yesterday, he's the Phillies team photographer. He said, I asked him if there's any things that changed this year. He said there's a sleeve policy. You're not allowed to be sleeveless on the field. But
you need to wear shirts that actually fit you.
But I'm grandfathered in, he said. So I'm good for the year to go sleeveless when it gets nice out.
Oh my God. Look at me in my farmer's tan.
This year, Steven, I am going to get looked at quite a bit because of how I'm going to be shooting, which I've talked about pretty extensively, but I'm going to talk about more. We've got a lot to talk about this week. There's me photographing Modest Yahoo in the studio here. We've got me talking about my 4x5, some things I discovered, talk to a classic photographer who takes his 4x5 places that other people just don't. Like, we're talking photographing presidents, photographing different sports, photographing the Olympics. David Burnett, who I met in at the Sony A9 III event and just reconnected with him to ask questions about it because he shoots with something very similar to what I picked up. He's really cool. Talk about that. We're going to talk about all of the new Sony and Canon firmware and how they're much better than Nikon because they put out the firmware. That's a joke. That's a joke. We're gonna talk about the firmware. What has actually been updated and what does it really mean?
And how not much has been updated.
Right. Some minor updates, but we'll get to that. Don't shoot it now, Steven. We've got some Canon patents for wide-angle 2.0 and 2.8 lenses that I personally would prefer seeing over what they currently have out. And also, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit about the 24 to 400 millimeter. Sorry, 28. We all want to say 24 because
just sounds right.
It just sounds right. 24 to, and
they have the 24 to 200.
Yeah, this is a 28 to 400, one lens to rule them all, which we'll talk about, and possibly the Sigma 51.2 to end the discussion there if we need to. Those are two lenses, two videos that, well, one came out and the other will be coming out shortly, but there's a lot to talk about. So before I dive more into the baseball stuff, let's jump into the Modest Yahoo stuff because he was here in the studio on, what was it, Friday? Yeah, it was Friday.
I believe so, yeah.
He was playing Philly at Brooklyn Bowl, so I picked him up he called right before lunch. He's like, "Hey, Fro," he's like, I need some new photos." And I was like, "Yeah, this usually happens. You always call me when you come to town and you need some new photos." So he's only a mile, the venue's only a mile from here. I picked him up with one of his label guys and his son, and he brought a bunch of changes of clothes, which we'll never go through because that's not the type of stuff that I do, but brought him back to the studio, used the window lighting to get some photos, threw the 4x5 up to get some photos as well. And the one photo that I posted of him smoking the joint it's really good. Like, it's a cool photo. I mean, I guess it's a cool photo. It's not, whatever. It is what it is.
It's the greatest photo ever.
What's interesting is I'm not a smoker. I do not like smoking whatsoever.
Did your studio smell
jam.
like a skunk when he left?
Dude, he rolled he had pre-rolled fatty raw cones, which are like
he smokes
I don't
raw.
know. Yeah, there's those raw cones, and they're thick and big, and he smoked 2 of those while he was here, and it took like 4 days to get that smell out of here. And I remember driving him back, and I'm like, dude, I'm impaired right now. And this was after the shoot. He's like, well, I was blowing the smoke towards the camera, like you said.
I mean, he was basically shotgunning you with the smoke. You called me like laughing in the car, and I'm like, you get so silly when you get any sense of smoke or any types of drugs in you, which is incredibly rare, and it's usually just secondhand.
I think the last time I might have had some of that was like during the pandemic. My neighbor had a vaporizer, and I was like, well, I mean, it's like Friday night and we're not going anywhere tomorrow for the next 2. I'll try it. And I'm like, this doesn't do anything to me. I'm like, this doesn't do anything to me. I don't even know what's going on right now. What
Jared,
is happening?
You've said that 72 times.
So yeah, that was fine. But whatever he had, I was paranoid for the next 5 hours, and
that is the
anxious.
worst.
I wasn't paranoid. I was anxious, and I had to do work, and I'm trying to do work, and I'm trying to like transfer funds, and I'm just like, am I doing it wrong? And I'm double checking, and I just felt horrible. That's why I do not like it.
I get there's indica and what's the other one? Sativa. I just personally, no matter which one I have, it just makes me sleepy. Also makes me anxious at the same time. Like it doesn't work well for me personally. I know a lot of people that can just do it all day and they just function. I don't know how they do it.
They don't just function. See, that's the thing.
They claim they
think
do.
They're functioning,
exactly.
But they're really in a fog. You're in a fog. There's no way around it. If you just smoke repeatedly, nonstop, day in, you wake up and you wake and bake, you're definitely fogged.
That's
your brain
all you know.
is
that is your
fogged.
reality at that point.
And you are slower. I mean, we know that. There's people that have quit and they're like, fuck, I can work much better. I can focus much better. And I get it. There's some people that think that whatever. We need to go down a rabbit hole smoking weed. But anyway, Modest was here. What was funny is he left one of the finished smoking, one of the cones on my counter.
Here's your payment, Jared.
I don't know why he did that, but my one friend He likes to collect things like that. He's a big fan of Modest Yahoo, so I printed him a print, and it's for Steve. You know, Steve, the dreidel guy up on my window, Manny the Menorah's friend, Steve. He's on my bowling team. So I printed him the print of him smoking, and I'm going to get it framed with the joint in there. And I think that's going to be a cool one-of-a-kind piece.
Like a box frame, almost make it like three-dimensional too, like the joint is popping out of the photo. That's kind of cool.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to have it pop out of the photo. I'll see if that makes... Maybe I will just have it pop out of the photo where it is. That might be pretty cool.
You should blow some actual smoke in there and seal it up.
Well, no. What you should do is you put
and then put a little cover so you can like take a hit every once in a while.
You put cotton there to symbolize the smoke. But I think it would actually be pretty funny to put
It's like a high school project
there. Yeah. Kind of like my Moses print that I have from the 90s that I bought remember I bought at an estate sale.
I don't know, you buy the most random things.
Well, they wanted like $100 and the estate sale was over, and I'm just walking around, I'm like, ooh, that's too much. And it's this pop out 3D big ass frame thing with Moses, and there's like cotton balls for the clouds, and I'm like, I gotta have that Moses painting. It's framed like the 90s with the Formica framing. I got it for like $20.
Where is that?
Nailed it. It's at my house.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't remember ever seeing that.
You would have seen it at my old house. I had it.
Okay.
Then Modest was going to be playing the show later at Brooklyn Bowl. So he got back to the studio, and I got there like 2 hours before the event. And there's been a lot of protests at his events. And one of the events in Chicago at the House of Blues canceled it because the security guards walked off.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know if they were worried or they were just agreeing with what protesters were saying.
Yeah.
But Modest also raised some money to have a personal security guard and to have private security at events.
I could see them fearing for their lives, too. There's only, 2 probably security guards and 30 people protesting? Gets scary.
Well, it was... So let's get to the protest part in Philly. All I know is I drive my scooter from my house to my other house because I can leave my scooter there and walk to the venue.
From my house to that house, then to that house, then to the other house, and then I round trip.
The house that's closer to the venue.
Gotcha.
I parked my vehicle, my scooter over there.
Glad you specified that.
Yes. It was house number 1.
Okay.
We went from studio property 5 to property 1. It's like Silo 1. Let me just say, by the way, I've been reading the Silo books. Very good, very enjoyable. If you enjoy the show Silo, the books are very good.
Great
I think
series.
You won't be upset about the book or the show. So anyway, I walk around the Fillmore, right? The front. I walk around the front, Steven. I usually go the other way, but it's shorter to get to the Brooklyn Bowl. I round the corner and there's some barricades there, and all of a sudden you hear booing. I was getting booed for walking down the street, which is surprising because Blue October was performing at the Fillmore, another band was performing, and there was a comedy show. So I'm getting booed, and I'm like, why am I getting booed?
Because you could have been going to those other shows, not just Modest Yahoo. But they saw you.
They're like, this guy got to be a Jew with that hair and that nose. So I walk around the corner. I'm like, hi. And I give them the wave, the basically go fuck yourself wave, like laughing and smiling. So there's like 8 of these protesters. There's the Palestinian flag, which is fine. Protesting is totally accepted. That's why we live in this country. So you have the rights to do this stuff.
Sure.
Not a right to be ignorant. Right? You do have a right to be ignorant because that's your choice to be ignorant. But there's this one woman on a bullhorn yelling at everybody walking by. And the stuff she was saying was getting to a personal level. It wasn't sticking to facts. I like to stick to facts. She wasn't sticking to facts. But she's just like, fuck you.
You with the small arms over there.
No, because I started to film
Fighting
because
words, man.
I made the Insta story because I was like, I just got booed for walking down the street. They don't even know where I'm going. Right. And so, but yet one of the things they did is they screamed, I don't care where any of you are going. You support genocide.
What?
Right. So she was yelling, you support genocide. How many kids did you kill today? To which I said 7.
Oh, jeez. Why would she assume everybody supports genocide when there's 3 different shows going on?
Ignorance, Stephen.
Of course, but it's like,
ignorance.
What? Let me guess. Some young college kid.
She was younger. She was younger, and she was yelling that, down with Modest Yahoo, from the river to the sea. This was 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they weren't there the whole show. I don't know if the police finally moved them out because she was not, being a a good protester. She was being a belligerent, threatening one. And I think if you're making threats, you should be removed.
I was going to say, what is the line when the police have
I don't
to
know.
interact?
I
Obviously,
didn't
violence.
I didn't go and talk to these people because there's no reason to. It's not going to get anywhere. But the things that were being yelled about Modest, who has a song, One Day, I hope we all can be one and stop with the violence and peace and all that stuff. Just the things that were being yelled, like F Israel, F Zionism, all Israel, Israel shouldn't exist, all of this stuff, just all of the just dumbass stuff. How many people have you killed today?
Jeez.
It's blood on your hands, and which it's not. I have nothing to do with any of this, and neither do the 800 people who walked by the 8 protesters to go to the Modest Yahoo show.
And this is every single show for him.
This is on this tour. It's every single show. They started there was protests, and in some cities, like we're going to protest because he's a Zionist, and I've said it before, but if you Google the term Zionism, it was started in the late 1800s as a thing for Jewish people to advocate for a homeland. And what I would have said to one of this young lady who was very angry, and as some people said, needed to get laid, and she would feel better, I would have said, you do realize that you are a Zionist for Palestine, meaning you're advocating for Palestine to have a homeland along with, and let me just say, the land has belonged to every which person in the history of people, from Jews to Arabs to Christians to everybody. So no one's going to ever win that one. But I'm like, you advocating for this homeland for Palestine, which I'm 100% for, I think there should be that, is basically you are a Zionist as well. But we can move on from that, Stephen. I got booed. Everybody else got yelled at, and those people didn't even stay the entire show, and they failed at getting Modest Yahoo's show canceled.
Sounds like a fun night.
Yeah, it was a fun night. I mean, it was definitely, there was a 0 bag policy to go in. Like, they were like, you can't bring that in. I'm like, yeah.
I bet they were incredibly strict that night, yeah.
I'm the photographer for Modest. So I just texted him, like, can you send down your tour manager to come grab me, please? So he has a Navy SEAL with him now.
Surprised they didn't allow clear bags or something like that. A lot of venues do that.
This was just they knew what was going to happen.
Circumstances, yeah.
They didn't want any potential chance for violence, which, to be honest, if someone wanted to do something, they would be able to do something. Yeah. No one has any guns in that venue. You're not stopping someone coming in the front door with an AK-47.
Scary
you're just
to think about, yeah.
Because you're not. What is that 21-year-old security person going to stop that? No one had. I mean, there were a couple of police around the corner patrolling, so that was fine. And I don't know if they had to pay for extra security like that, but yeah, I mean, you're not stopping it, but it is what it is. Let's you know what? I was thinking about my photo book while I was in the shower.
You were thinking about getting all the prints off the floor?
No, the prints are still on the floor, Stephen.
That's weird.
But you know how baseball cards are a big thing, and people open boxes of stuff to see what they're going to get in the box?
I'm more of a fan of bowling cards.
Yes, bowling cards with Hope Solos in there. But I realized that with the release of the next photo book, I can do signed prints. I can do limited edition prints of, like, say, Modest signed or Perry Farrell signed, like one of ones, and they will be randomly inserted with people have a chance to get those things. It's gamifying it.
Is that like the golden ticket thing you were talking about?
No, the golden ticket is the golden ticket.
Okay.
That's
That's cool.
That's a special one of one to be flown in or card in wherever you're from to come to the show.
Will these signed prints be in actual, like, card format?
No,
like
I'm going to
laminated or whatever and all?
I'll still do 9x13, I believe. It needs to fit in the book. 9x13 won't. So it's going to be whatever the prints were that I did for Bernie. They're going to be that size, and they're going to be signed and numbered. So I am probably going to do. I have to figure out how the Kickstarter works, because, like, if the book is $80, there's. Those are like the base ones. That's not going to have a chance of coming with signed or whatever, or a random print. But if you get the $125 version of the book or whatever, the $150, then there's going to be one where there's, like, guaranteed prints, and I'm going to probably do one print of every picture in the book.
Yeah.
So that will be like signed and numbered, one of those, and those are like special because it's going to be random. And then they may have a list of 10 that people could possibly purchase as add-ons. I'm still figuring it all out, but I think it's going to be cool to have, like, maybe I print a modest, that great photo of him that I did back in the day with a gold border, right? And the gold border print is a one of one. Just like baseball cards.
Put that baby on eBay for 10 grand.
That's going to be worth a lot of money, Steve.
Then I can buy a day in the life ticket with Jared Polin. Go to his
much.
party.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know how much I'm going to... Oh, did I say that I was going to offer one of those?
You did, I think, last week, and we were trying to debate how much you were going to charge, and you're like, I don't know, 5 grand, 2,500, something like that.
Well, I could do like 10 grand, and I could be like, that gets you a private show.
$100,000.
It could be like a private show for you and 10 of your friends, and then I could be like, hey, Modest, I'll give you 5 grand to play a couple songs at this person's house, and we'll split the difference. You know,
that would be cool if you actually had like a mini concert in your home with the musicians that were inside the book.
Yeah, it won't be all of them,
had a whole lineup.
I know that Walt and Nick will play from Silvertide. I will reach out to Modest to see if he'll come and play some of the acoustic stuff. I'm going to reach out to some people.
Silvertide apparently is playing the MMRBQ, I think.
Yeah, just like the old days.
Yeah, I didn't think they were even a band anymore, though.
Yeah, they're a band together. Okay. Again, I don't hang out around. I don't go to those things because I don't care. They're not going to go anywhere. I love Walt as a lead singer. And Nick as a guitar player, they put on an amazing show. And when Walt is on with the rock stuff, it is fan-freaking-tastic watching him running around stage and doing his thing because he is so powerful for such a thin guy. He lived the rock star life all those years.
Especially that early 2000s, late 90s stuff.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I'll go to that. Is it Godsmack for a change?
I think it is, man. It's Godsmack every year. It's always a terrible lineup.
Well, the good news is I know a person that works for Godsmack, so if I do want to go, I can get a credential to do that. When is the show again?
It is September 21st at the Freedom Mortgage Pavilion, a venue that's had its name changed like 37
Tweeter
times.
Center.
Yeah, I can't keep up.
It's not till September?
It's actually not Godsmack for once. It's The Offspring, Hailstorm. I think Hailstorm plays like every year. Nothing More, POD, The Warning, Silvertide, Sleep Theory, Jersey Calling. I guess a bunch of local bands at the bottom.
Wait, who's the main act?
The Offspring.
Why are The Offspring the main act?
I think they're pretty big.
They're fine. They're good. I like The Offspring, but... Yeah, I remember when Perry was playing, The Offspring opened for them.
For those wondering, this is like the local rock radio station in Philadelphia. This was actually our competition for Radio 104.5. They were more of the hard rock station. We were more of like the alternative rock, new age stuff. We were way cooler. I like to call what they played butt rock.
Let's move on from the book talk. I'm going to do those limited things. I think that's going to be cool. And the goal is to say, look, the cost for me all in to produce the book is probably around 50 grand at least, maybe more with the shipping and the container. So you're probably same as it's a little more expensive than last time. I'm still playing with the gutter thing. I am actually happier with the book that they sent me. There were a couple of imperfections, but I do like the way that the spine can fold off.
So what did they end up giving you? Did they give you like a book from a different production run or what?
No, it's an actual book that they did that has the style. It's called a Swiss binding. If you look up Swiss binding, the glue is on it, but the spine is not glued to the pages. So the spine can fold away so that the book can go completely flat.
Oh, I see.
Now the issue is when a print is made, so if I have a 2-page spread, like 1 and 2, the left side is printed on a different sheet than the right side because it has to come together. So they just have to make sure it all lines up perfectly so that there's not like a white line in the middle now. And so, but the book got it right like 99% of the time. I did find a few pages that weren't perfectly aligned, but the rest of it is flat, and then you have the binding going through the middle. It's a really good option. It's just a couple dollars more per book, so that adds a couple $1,000s to the run. I'm hoping that it's the right thing to do. So we'll get. Now, when I decide what to do, we'll get there. I'm the layout is coming along very well. It's a little harder than last time because it's not chronological order. But anyway,
I don't mind it not being chronological order, though. I think it's just the best of the best, throughout your concert photography career.
Yeah, there's some photo stories, and there is
again, that's all I want to know. I want to know the photo stories.
Well, I mean, like the Modest tour, the day with Modest, the first time I met in 2010, the Perry Farrell tour. Those are the ones that I'm doing like stories of. You know, like in a section, multiple images.
How about the Foo Fighters story?
Well, the Foo Fighters will be in there. I'll probably tell
aftermath.
that story. Oh, I'll tell that story, Steven.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, I'll tell that story. I think I actually did on a long ago RAWtalk.
I think we did, yeah.
The original time about getting yelled at. I'll save that for the book. So let me move on to what I've been doing to prepare for the baseball season. Practicing with the 4x5 is what I've been doing. So I sat here and I scanned my 4x5 black and whites the other day, and I loved keeping the framing. Now, you'll see these photos on Instagram. I posted of my friend Kate and my buddy Dan, who did do the processing of those negatives. And I also found out the costs for developing color at a lab in Delaware, which isn't far away. So here's the pricing. A 4x5 sheet of color is $2.60 to get processed. You can even do 8x10 sheet film. It's only $6 per to get processed, which isn't bad. And they really don't like doing black and white. We can just do that on our own. But if you were to do black and white processing, they would charge $3 per sheet. But where it gets interesting is the color film. It's $79 for Portra 400, 10 sheets of color film. So it's $7.95 per sheet to just shoot.
Pricey.
Plus the $2.60 to process. It's $10 a picture.
Would you ever develop your own?
Not color.
No?
Not color.
Why not?
Well, I might do the black and white. I have everything. I could do the black and white upstairs. We have, in essence, a dark room in the bathroom. It's got a fan that sucks everything out. I've got safe lights here. Safe light, safe auto, safe glass, whatever. I've got that stuff here, and I hear it's not that hard to process the black and white anymore. I used to do it, so I just need a quick refresher.
Do not miss any of that.
I do like doing the black and white. The color I don't need, but I can then scan all of the stuff. And so
I assume the photos you posted are scans, correct? They're not photos of photos.
No, they're all scans of the negatives. I have the Epson 850 V850, I believe, is the scanner that is still the current one. So I scanned them into the computer. I didn't use the scanning adapter for 4x5. It has different adapters for different film. The reason I didn't do that is because I want to keep the negative completely, the border in the picture. Yeah, I want that. And so in order to do that, I just laid it on the glass and scanned it, and it does a really good job. And I did it. They're like 400 megabyte PSD files that I did it as.
Oh,
just because.
I would assume like TIFF files or something like that.
Well, you could do TIFF, but
That's
I
cool.
figured
You can scan them as PSD. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they were DNGs, would be a little, but basically I bring the PSDs into Photoshop,
but you could
into Lightroom.
Then convert them to DNGs in Photoshop.
I could, couldn't I?
It's an Adobe format. I don't see why not.
I guess I could. I'll look into that because I did it as PSDs. I just opened those in Lightroom and edited them to my style.
So these are edited. Okay. I couldn't tell because they're very lightly edited because I'm used to your style where it's contrast to a million. And for once it's not.
I felt like a little softer on the contrast was more representative of how the film would be.
How did it look unedited, straight out of camera?
My exposures are very good.
Yeah.
Actually, you know why, Steven?
Because you're the best photographer ever?
Because I'm the best photographer ever. You nailed it right on the head. It's really cool that I have that app on the phone that works, which I don't think they update anymore, and I spent $10.99 for it.
What's it called? I saw a couple people asking. It's just called Light Meter, right?
Well, it's called Light Meter, but when you look it up in the store, let me go to the App Store and let me type in Light Meter, camera light meter, and I'll tell you exactly. Camera light meter. The one that I used, because there's a bunch of these, it's called Pocket Light Meter, and it was one that cost money, and the reason I bought that one, it's last updated 4 years ago. Oh, wow. So I don't think they're going to be updating this anymore. But it worked. It worked. I'm sure that I may try some of the newer ones too, but most of them have in-app purchases.
Always. I can't tell you the last time I actually bought an app on the iPhone.
So what's crazy is like some of these only have like 17 reviews, right? light meter. There's I want to see what the different options are.
I mean, I don't think there's the demographic for that kind of app is probably not a ton of people, you know.
But the way that I would improve on the light meter app is I would have spot metering, right? The ability to do a spot.
That?
They just don't. So
That's
what
odd
I've
that
noticed,
they don't have different types of metering modes.
No, they don't. But it works very well. I can take I can hit hold and it actually takes a screen picture and puts in all the data and the geolocation and then I can put notes in there from how I shot it. But what I've done is I've been able to get either closer to the subject to read it or point it at the ground, you know, in a different area, in a darker area that I think will match the skin tone, and then I go based off of that. But my exposures are, I could either do timed, which is literally bulb, 30th of a second, 1/25th of a second, and 500th of a second are the only shutter speeds I have. So I have to work around that. To get back to the baseball thing, is I'm prepping to shoot the games. And I talked about last week how I got my exposures right. This week I have 100 speed black and white and 400 speed black and white. 100 speed color, it's called Kodak Ektar. That one was $69 a box or $67 a box for 10 sheets. Wow. And I've got 400 color. Now, the thing is, how do you know what you're shooting, right? You have to make sure that when you put them in the 4x5 holder that you know which one has color, which one has black and white, which is 100, which is 400. So I ordered colored dots, these sticker dots that, you know, people use for labeling and filing. They're 1/4 inch, so they're small. And the format that I quickly came up with for my brain is a black dot. One black dot means, what do you think one black dot means, Steven? What ISO?
100.
100. What do you think 4 black dots means, Steven?
400. Because there's 4.
Right.
Crazy.
So for color, I'll pick like a yellow sticker and have 1 for 100.
That is
and
just
4
amazing.
Yellow stickers for 400. Dude,
Why don't you just use gaff tape or something? Just a small little piece. We've got all kinds of different colors.
No. One, because the gaff tape will leave residue and I don't want that, and it's thicker and I don't want to, it just needs to be small enough, and that's why I got these stickers on Amazon.
You don't think the stickers are going to leave residue too?
They're super small. I don't care about that. I didn't want to, like, you got to remember, I got to slide this in the back of the camera. I've got to.
No, it has to be thin. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So I like this idea, the stickers. And I'm taking, so like, can you imagine people are going to see this guy on the field under a dark cloth, using a camera that they've never seen before.
With a sleeveless shirt.
With a sleeveless shirt, changing film. They're going to be like, what the hell is that?
It is pretty cool. It's something you don't see every day for sure. I'm sure a lot more players will want to actually get their photograph taken for once.
And that's the point.
Yeah.
And that's the point. So
Stand out.
I will be having a dark bag with me in the press room so that I could either, I don't plan on taking 100 pictures at a game. I plan on taking like 10 potentially. Mm-hmm. But I have enough to do 14 shots. I have enough holders for 14, but right now it's 12 because I did 2 of Matis that are still in the holders that I need to develop when he was here. But I do think that it is a talking point and an easy way to get access to players. I'm like, because my thing is like, hey, do you want a picture like you're a 1940s ball player like they did back in the day? And I believe that they're going to be all for it. Like Garrett Stubbs is all for it. He's the Phillies catcher, the chief vibe officer. I already talked to him about it. So I think, and so my plan for this year is the Phillies play in Chicago in July 1st, July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. So I want to take it to Wrigley. I want to take it to Fenway. The Phillies play in Fenway. I want to take it to LA.
Any landmark stadium, you know, Fenway.
You only have like 3: Fenway, Wrigley,
the OGs, yeah,
and then Dodger Stadium. Chavez Ravine is like the 50s, so, or 60s, or whenever that one was, but classic.
I mean, it reminds me a lot of when we did that one photo shoot with was it Giles Clement, right? The tintype stuff. He shot with like an 1850 vintage camera back in the day, and that was what, 10 years ago almost at this point.
It's a long time.
If you guys wanted to see that, what do we call that?
It was a 5-minute portrait shooting like the 1800s or something.
It's called Who Needs 10 Frames Per Second When You Can Have 1 frame every 10 minutes?
Yeah,
Great title.
Not a good. That was a changed title. We originally had something else in there. It was hard to get people to watch that stuff, even though those are the good pieces of content, the ones that you spend a lot of time creating a story. So that's really the secret, is if you can make a video where you have the story and you can have a good title around it, we can get people to watch it. Oh, anyway, I do want to go to a bunch of different stadiums. I did find that in a 4x5 that I was given in the past, I have a 90mm f8 Schneider optics lens, which is the equivalent of a 28mm. So I want to use that for shooting wide angles of the stadiums before the games and in the stadium. So I'm going to do that.
That's cool.
But I did talk to David Burnett. If you don't know David Burnett, go look at his website. Not the greatest website in the world, but look up what this guy has done since the 1960s. He is a quintessential news photographer who's been in the middle of everything from the Vietnam War on the ground to the Khmer Rouge to all of these other crazy He has a picture of Napalm Girl, Napalm Girl, the photo of the girl running.
Yeah.
Well, he was on the other side, and this is a question I want to ask. Like, are you upset that you didn't get Napalm Girl and you just got her backside? Because he got her running away, and the other guy got her running from the napalm burnt. Like, it's insane. But I'm curious. He was there on the ground for that stuff.
Is he in the background of that photo?
I don't know if any photographers are in the background of that photo. I think just children are in the background of that photo.
Looks like kids and maybe some soldiers. Yeah.
I don't know, but he also photographed presidents. You're talking like Johnson and JFK. So you're going back to early 60s, the news stuff that he was shooting. He has gone around and he takes his 4x5 with him to shoot the Olympics. He takes the 4x5 to photograph State of the Union addresses. So he has access to all of this stuff, and he offered to give me some advice and tips for shooting a 4x5. I just realized that my 4x5 can tilt back.
Oh, nice.
So I can create that tiny work, like the line thing. So you have the tilt of it and the raise. You just can't swivel it, but it can tilt back to give you a cool look. I have to play with that. I didn't even know my camera did that.
That tilt shift effect you're talking about.
Yeah, tilt shift effect.
Yeah, cool.
I didn't even know you don't have the shift, but you have the tilt.
Yeah. So
I will mess with that, but I'm going to start off slowly. But I might ask to have an interview with him, and we will do a bonus episode where I put that up talking with him, because he's a wealth of knowledge, and I had a great conversation with him in New York City that one time, and I look forward to hearing his stories directly. But look him up, David Burnett. Look at his website, look at what he's been able to capture, look at his Instagram, and just see the history that he was around for as a photographer. He was in the room for so many important events.
Very cool.
So crazy. Now let's move into the firmware discussion. There's been a lot of talk about firmware since Nikon put out firmware 5.0 for a 2-year-old camera, and people were waiting for Canon and Sony to follow suit. Now, Canon and Sony both released firmware in the last couple of days. Canon did it for the R5 as well as the R3. They may have updated something else. The R5 got a 2.0 release.
Major
now, this camera
2.0.
Well, mind you, this camera's been out for over 4 years now. So for them to only be at 2.0, some people see that as a bad thing, and I don't, because when you get the camera, actually, the update that should have been 2.0, what should have been that overheating one.
Yeah. Canon's weird with firmware updates. They don't really announce them. You know what I mean?
We didn't have any prior notice of it, and
we didn't get any press release or anything like that. It's just kind of odd how they don't say much about them. Because they're mainly bug fixes, that's why.
Exactly. And there's only so much you can change with firmware. You can't change hardware. So if there's hardware limitations, you can't tweak that in firmware to make it go any better. So the R5 updated, it says, enables servo zooming to be remotely controlled from EOS Utility or Camera Connect when power zoom adapter, that isn't even released yet, that's the PZ adapter for the 24 to 105. So that enables up to 2 terabyte CF Express cards or larger, which is good for video shooters. That's good. Fixes an issue that may cause the camera in rare instances to experience some other bullshit. These are so minor.
The difference here is it went from firmware 1.9 to 2.0. You know, it's not a giant leap calling it a 2.0 major firmware update. This is literally the next incremental update would be called 2.0.
Right.
So it's really just bug fixes and a couple other things, but that's why we're not going nuts on this update versus like what we did with Nikon, for example.
Well, because they don't come out and say that the autofocus is now the best ever, because the autofocus is already great. That's my thing. My contention with Nikon doing the numbering is major updates should be getting things, or then you could call it a 2.0. But if you have 5 updates and 4 of them say that the autofocus has now gotten better and better, something's not right there. Anyway, the R3 firmware went to 1.7.1, and it's basically the same fixes that I just talked about with some other minor things. There's really nothing in this that is sending me running to go update it, right? My R3s. But Sony went ahead and people give Sony a lot of crap for not updating their firmware very often. And again, that's not that big of a deal. It really isn't that big of a deal unless they're withholding certain things from you.
I think the issue with Sony is that there's a lot of lower end cameras coming out with these new menus, new features being introduced, and yet the flagships like the A1 don't have that new stuff.
Well, that's a good point, Stephen.
Yeah, like the focus breathing compensation. I think they finally gave it to now the A1, the A7S3, blah, blah, blah. There's other stuff that got introduced too, but this is kind of like the Nikon thing. Again, it's more of like, it's a 3.0 update, but there's not much that they included for people waiting that long, unless you're like a press photographer that really needed a lot of the network and functionality additions. I don't think they added much.
Well, so this time they updated the A9 III, the A1, the A7S3, and the A7 IV. All got firmware updates. They're big into this content authenticity thing, which I mean, I get it, but for the everyday photographer, I don't think content authenticity is going to
if you're a news
really
agency,
matter.
This update's huge. If you're not, like most people probably owning these cameras, there's not much going on.
Like, do I want a content authenticity? Sure, I'd like that it baked in, let people know this is the original. That's cool. Is it that big of a deal in my opinion? No. The news agencies, yeah, it's a bigger deal for them. I just think it's weird that the A9 III is up to 2.0 and that camera's been out since March. Sorry, that camera's just come out. How are you at 2.0 for the A9 III when you just released it?
I will say this week, I do feel pretty ill-informed about what's going on with these firmware updates. I don't know much about them. I haven't really looked into it just because I've been super busy. We were trying to get that 28-400 video out, which we just filmed on like Friday, and I had like a day and a half to edit that to get it out for the embargo. And then let's just say we got a lot of things coming up next week, and important things that I wish I could talk about, but you guys will find out more about that soon.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of new features?
No. It's like the way it handles shutter speed during continuous shooting or when using faster aperture lenses, meaning when it first came out, you couldn't shoot continuous shooting at 1/80,000th of a second.
Oh, this is the firmware that they noted from day one that will be coming out to unlock all of those features.
Yeah, I just don't know why they just don't call it 1.2.
Yeah, kind of odd.
Why are we calling it 2.0? The camera's not even in the hands of most people.
I'm just sick in general of talking about all these minor firmware updates. Like the way that these companies are pushing them, that they're the biggest updates ever. And it's just kind of like, no, they're not. I think they're just holding off on a lot of those new features for the next cameras. I will give it to Nikon, though. Like I said in the past, firmware 2.0 and 3.0, huge updates for the Nikon Z9. And they're actually giving the Z9 now a lot of the Z8 features, where something like the A1 is not getting some of the A9 III features.
Most of these features that Sony and Canon did, they're not really major. Yes, they went to 3.0 on some of the cameras, like the A7 IV. I just think they listened to the people complaining so much, and they're like, you know what? Let's just release it and call it 3.0 and make it seem like it's been improved.
Well, I saw the A7S III. I believe they added DCI 4K at 24p, which is kind of nice. Kind of odd that camera never had DCI 4K to begin with. It's a 12.1 megapixel sensor, and I think the width is like 4240, so it could have done DCI from day one, and it is a cinematic focused camera. Just odd that they didn't give it that. And it does raw output at pretty much DCI 4K. But stuff like that should have been at launch with that camera. But it looks like overall, the A7 IV went to 3.0, the A1 went to 2.0, the A7S III went to 3.0, and then the A9 III will be going to 2.0. I will say, I don't recall Sony having this firmware update page. It's alphauniverse.com/firmware. It's really nice. It shows all of the cameras in order when the new firmware came out and what it's on currently.
I think you might also be able to update your firmware from the Sony app now.
I know Canon allows that too. I'm not sure if Nikon does or not.
No, well, I don't see. I think Nikon is just so easy
that way. But.
You just literally drop it on the card and put the thing in the camera. That's all I want to do. But it would be great if it could just connect to the cloud and update from your phone without having to. But even that's a pain in the ass. Let me just put it on the card. It's such a small file. I can just update it.
I think that's the easiest way.
That would be the best to be able to do that. Now let's move on and put the firmware discussion to rest because it wasn't that big of a deal. You can see what was updated fully if you really want to. Just know that like breathing compensation to me doesn't mean anything.
As a non-video shooter, you wouldn't be using that anyway. So
not a big deal. But now let's get on to this quickly, this Canon patent filing for wide-angle 2.0 lenses. It's interesting because one of the patents was for a 14-20 f2. Oh. Now, do I like the 12-24 from Sony 2.8? I'm like, that's nice. I'd rather have a 12-24 2.8 than a 10-20 f4 from Canon. I'm not sure I'm a fan of the 10-20 f4.
Really?
From
You
Canon.
wouldn't want wider? I think the 10-20. The 2.8 really means nothing to me personally.
It's a quality of glass issue to me.
Quality of glass? What do you mean?
Because look at the 10-20 and look at the 11-24 f4.
I mean, are you talking about digital corrections versus having it optically sound from day one?
I'm just talking like look and feel and quality.
All I care about is how the final photo looks at the end of the day. If I have to add lens correction, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, but I think the glass is going to be better. I think a 14-20 is beautiful. Yes, I like wide for that baseball shot that I want, but most of the time, the 14 is nice. But on the list, Steven, there's some other potential wide-angle lenses, like a 12-24 2.8 is an option, an 11-24 2.8 to f4. Now, that would be cool, right? If it's at 2.8 at 11, and then as you zoom, it's variable aperture, I could see using something like that. This would be awesome, an 11-24 2.8, because then I get the 11 that I want. It's not 10, but it is 11, but it's a 2.8 to 4. I think that would be cool. But if they do come out with a 14-20, that'd be interesting too if it's an f2.
I mean, that's the big deal, is the f2 part of it. That you would actually probably have some depth to your photos when you're shooting ultra wide at 14, which is incredibly rare. My thing is, that would be such a giant bulbous lens at f2, that wide. I couldn't imagine. I mean, think of the Sigma 15 1.4.
Yeah, that's
a fixed
large
prime lens, and it's 1.4. Imagine having zooming elements on top of that. It would just be probably like a 5-pound lens, if I had to guess. And I'm assuming $4,000. If $3,000 for the 11-24 f4, I bet it's up there in that $4,000 price range.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens. Speaking of lenses, Nikon put out a 28-400. Which Steven did a great job editing that video. If you haven't checked out that review, it's up there on the YouTubes. It's one lens to rule them all, !
One lens to rule them all. There's some
what do you
lines
think?
on there.
You edited that bad boy, so you're pretty close to that video. What'd you think of that lens?
I think it's a great, soccer mom lens. I think it's for those parents that want to just shoot outdoor sports of their kids or the kids at the playground. I mean, everything you photographed is, I think, what people will be photographing with that lens. Kids, sports, college sports, daylight, not indoor sports. Stuff like that. Maybe a travel lens. I think that's a great little small compact lens because it does become like a 15-inch lens when you extend it because it is an extending zoom, but it is pretty compact when you bring it down to 28 millimeters at like 5.6 inches tall. It goes to f8 at like 200 millimeters. That's a little annoying. They used to have a 28 to 300 f3.5 to 5.6. That's kind of nice having 300 at 5.6. Why didn't this lens do something like that? I get the zoom range is much different.
Well, they had to make it. They went with the smaller, more compact, which means they went with higher aperture to make it smaller.
Yeah, but the 28 to 300 was even smaller, I'm pretty sure, than this one. Like, significantly smaller. You could collapse it into your hand, and it didn't really zoom out that much. So the only thing I question is the price. $1,300 is kind of a lot to ask for someone kind of just getting into photography. We really, I don't want to say dumbed down, but we made that video more of a beginner type video, someone just getting into photography and finding this lens and seeing if they should buy it or not. Gave a lot of quick tips, stuff like that, because we do think a lot of people searching out for this lens will be, again, they want one lens to rule them all, and this is the lens for them. I just think $1,300 is a big ask for someone that probably wants something that's $500.
But it depends. There's the people that used to come into the camera store all the time.
Sure.
That didn't care. They're like, I'm going to Alaska. I want one lens. What camera should I buy? My budget's like $4,000. And they would come in and they'd be fine to spend that money. There are the people that have that.
My thing is, though, if you're spending that kind of money at that point, why not just get something like the 180 to 600 f5 to 6.3?
It's not what they want. It's too big. They don't care. They want size, and they don't care about the quality as much. You know how many times I dealt with people coming into stores and be like, well, the quality isn't going to be as good. They're like, I don't care. I just want one lens that just takes pictures and gives and helps me save the memories from my trip, and they're just going to take pictures, which brings up me shooting it in aperture priority mode. What did you text me when you noticed something? Because you didn't notice how I shot at first.
Well, no, at first I'm like, man, his exposure looks like almost a stop over, blown out.
And usually my exposures are perfect because I'm the greatest photographer ever.
Well, I mean, usually they're like a third stop off or something like that.
Yes,
Nothing crazy.
off.
But
yeah.
The issue was, these Temple students playing lacrosse were wearing white uniforms. You would think it would be underexposed, if anything, and yet it was almost a stop overexposed. And I looked, and I realized you were shooting an aperture priority, which is something you never do. But because this is a variable aperture lens, it obviously makes sense to shoot that way. Now, I'm surprised you didn't use some exposure comp to bring it down a little bit. I'm not sure if like what you were seeing through the viewfinder looks good to you, or if you knew when you were shooting, while you were shooting, that it looked pretty, blown out.
Oh, I could see it.
But
that's why I switched to manual.
Clearly was a stopover, because the second you went into manual, everything looked great. The exposure looked pretty much spot on for the most part. But yeah, I'm surprised. I assume it was just matrix metering or something.
Yeah, it's the matrix metering, which even if you do exposure compensation, as you change where you're looking, it might get the exposure right, and now it's going to be wrong because you have exposure comp on.
Yeah, but I would say anywhere you put that lens, anywhere you pointed it at, it was still a stop over, which is very odd.
Yeah, the reason I did aperture priority because it was a 2-stop variable aperture lens. So if I'm going out from, go all the way to 28 to get go wide to 28 to get the person up close and then zoom in, that's a lot of tweaking of shutter speed that you need to do quickly to go 2 stops. It's not 1 stop anymore. It's 2 freaking stops. And so I also figured that most people buying this lens are going to set it to full auto and just take pictures. And they're going to get terrible pictures because they're not good, and they're going to think their lens and camera sucks, when I always tell people that it's you, not the camera. Just like my buddy at bowling last night was like, man, the ball is just, the lanes are like this. I'm like, it's not the lanes. Like, you threw the ball in the wrong place. It's you. So always think that it's you, not the ball. It's not the ball. It's not the tool. You failed to do something right.
I do wonder if Tamron is going to put out their 50 to 400, which I believe they have for the E-mount, right? I wonder if they're going to remake that for the Z-mount and put that out eventually, because I think that also sells for $1,300, and that's only a 4.5 to 6.3 lens, where this is obviously a 4 to 8 with a similar range, but you are losing that extreme wide end for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, the 28 to 400 is a lens that came out. Do you want to talk about this 51.2 real quick? Talk about some of the questions people had, because we have the review is coming. But people had some questions.
I think the biggest question was, do you want to get the native Sony 51.4, or would you get the third-party 51.2 when they're the same exact price? Now, one is limiting you to 15 frames per second, being the Sigma, obviously. But the difference is, you have something like your favorite 13 aperture blades. You're going to have more rounder bokeh, that kind of stuff.
that right there seals the deal for me.
And it is a 1.2. It is a different look for sure, but 1.2 to 1.4, what's that, half a stop? It's not a huge difference in light. And the one is a native Sony lens. Now, you also have, if you're on a budget, the Sigma 51.4 DGD and art version, which is only $850. So if you just can't afford the $13.99 price, you just get that. But Sony's 51.2, that's $2,000. That's a lot more expensive than Sigma's. You do kind of question, do you want the 51.4 from Sony or the 51.2 from Sigma?
Yeah, I think if you had to flip a coin and you really wanted the 1.2, you just get the Sigma if it's the same price as the 51.4. Most people don't need the extra 15, the above 15 frames per second. I think you get a 1.2 piece of glass, sure, but I would assume that the 51.4 from Sony is much lighter and smaller. So there's also the compactness and smallness size thing. Like the 35.1.4 from Sony is a beautiful lens, and it's smaller. No one's going to know the difference between the two, so it just becomes a personal preference. Do you want that 1.2 to have the extra little bit of light, which it just gives you a different look, and I was really happy with the colors that I got out of it. But the 51.2 Sony is still my favorite. One of my favorite lenses on Sony's cameras is that 51.2 is gorgeous. If you can afford it, I go with the Sony all day for the 1.2. But if you have the money to spend on a 51.4, you could just buy
the 1.2,
the Sigma 1.2,
yeah,
and know you're going to get great results.
I found it interesting when I put them side by side, taking the same exact photo just for like a bokeh test, because I really wanted to see does 13 aperture blades actually matter, and I really don't think it does. I think it looks exactly the same for the most part, and I don't think anyone is really nitpicking about bokeh at the end of the day. I think 11 is perfectly fine, but I will say that the Sony 51.2 did look like it was a longer focal length. Either that's a true 50 and the Sigma is like 47 millimeters, or the Sigma's 50 and the Sony is more like 52, 53, because I did the exact same framing on the A1, switched lenses, and you could see that there's definitely a difference in the focal length.
Yeah. No one knows.
And same with T-stops. The actual opening inside the lens is slightly different because I put it on aperture priority for these sample photos, and one was about a third stop difference. So I think the Sigma is a little brighter.
It's always like we always see that.
Yeah, because your f-stop is different than the actual T-stop of the actual amount of light that is coming into the lens.
Yeah. It's just nothing that anybody will ever know or notice, really.
Not a big deal.
When they're
unless
out there
you're comparing
shooting
lenses like this, which nobody ever does.
Yeah. So the good news is for you guys listening is I was going to have to rush out of here today to get to the Phillies game. It was supposed to be a 3:05 game here on Thursday, but because it's going to be shitty weather, rainy all day, they moved the game to Friday where it's going to be much nicer. And so I'll be going tomorrow to do, at the time of recording this, going tomorrow to get out to the stadium for the first game, the home opener.
And like you said, yeah, it's going to be like 50 or 60 degrees out, sunny all day. You should have a really nice opportunity for some good photos.
It's just, and I think tomorrow is really just like a feel out day. It's not a night game, but it's a feel out day to why I probably won't shoot a lot of pictures, but it's really a day to get a feel for the lighting at the time, because usually the players like to sign autographs.
What time's the game?
The game's at 3:05, but now I'm thinking they probably do player introductions, which means I have to ask if I can be out for player introductions on the field, because that would be a cool opportunity to get the guys standing on the foul line, and I know exactly where they'll be standing, and it could give me a really good way of shooting down the line but getting focused somewhere, and it could actually be pretty cool. Like, usually the players are waiting. They're probably going to give me shit because it's going to be this guy underneath a freaking... I bought the biggest... thing to put under. I should have gotten the smaller one.
I mean, the good thing is they'll all be staring at you, right?
Yeah, but I should have gotten the smaller cloth to go underneath. I got the bigger one because the smaller one, just when I looked at it was like 3 feet by 3 feet, which doesn't seem like enough for what I was trying to do. Maybe I should just cut this one in half, but it was like $80 for this dark cloth.
What's the size of the one you got?
Like 54 inches. So it's just a little too much. I probably should have gotten the smaller one. Oh, well.
You're going to hide your guns, man.
I could also just use my jacket too, right?
Then you look like
I
an
could
amateur, though.
No, I mean, but it's easier. It's less. But but the reason I got the dark cloth was more of the idea of taking a picture of the back of the screen. So wanting to be underneath it for that. But then I realized that when you have the thing popped open on the back, the shade, it just looks like you're just taking a picture. And if you don't have any stray light coming in to light up that actual thing, you don't get the dimension and to see what you're doing. So I may just use my jacket just in that situation, and that could work out. But I'm just trying to think, like, because when player introductions, there's a spot where they wait on the top of the stairs to get introduced, and I could either take pictures there or wait till they're in the line. I got some ideas, so I got to be ready, and I got to decide black and white or color.
That's cool. I could see, like, them being down on one knee, kind of waiting to be introduced. That's a nice little shot with the dugout in the background or something like that.
Yeah, but I'm limited to 1/500th of a second, and if I want to shoot at 2.5, it may not be as easy if the sun is out. I may have to stop down.
Giant ND filter.
I debated having an ND filter. They sell a 3D printed ND filter holder for the Aero Ektar on eBay. And that would allow me to get like an ND filter and say put a five stops or something, or put 2 stops on it.
Yeah.
Just to have cut down on 2 stops. So instead of 1/2000th of a second, if I put 2 stops in front of it, it's now 1/500th of a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would work. I think I should order that.
I'm surprised you don't have an ND filter of some sort.
Why you have to be able to mount it?
No, I know, but buying that whole kit.
I have to look into it. Filter holder. So I'm going to do that after we wrap this up. But that's my plan for tomorrow, is to go do the 4x5 and not take a real camera. Not taking a real camera at all. Just that. That's it, Steven. That's all I got this week for 95. Oh, I found my piece of paper. I found my piece of paper with the phone number on it.
What's the phone number?
313-710-9729 to text us. We say it now at the end. If you got this far and you just listen to the audio, can you go over to the YouTube and let us know that you got this far on that episode?
Yes,
and just
please.
say, I came over from there, whatever. Just let us know. You can leave the comments over there. Curious to see if those numbers will go up or ever, because it was like 8,000 for the first and second, but that was probably title driven, and the last one only did like 3,000 or 2,000.
Yeah, I mean, we just threw it up on YouTube just to have it as another place to listen to it at. We didn't really expect it to do good numbers on there, No,
I mean, 3,000. It's at 2,800 right now. The thing is, we lose subscribers on those videos.
Well, the other issue is that the RSS feed, the way we have it linked up to YouTube, it doesn't really allow you to do a custom thumbnail. If you do a custom thumbnail, it still shows the viewer or the subscriber just the RAWtalk Square logo. It's very odd. It doesn't overwrite that with the custom thumbnail. So it's kind of hard to do a custom thumbnail and get people to click, and when it just shows the same Square logo every single week. I wonder if they know that's a bug, or if that is a bug and that's how they want it. I don't know. Because we can switch it, and if you go manually into the podcast tab, you could see the custom thumbnail, but I don't think many people are doing that.
Yeah. We're going to wrap it up. I got to go do some stuff. You got to go do some stuff. Thank you guys very much for listening to our podcast number 95 of Frontnose Photo RAWtalk. We've hit 95 before in the old show. This is 95 of the new show.
We hit 200 something in the old show.
270? It was
something
like 270.
That's when we stopped, yeah.
Yeah, something along those lines. So that's it, guys. Hope you have a nice week. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, FrontnosePhoto.com. See ya.
Bye.